back at it again today. Back trying to get ourselves organized for the last of the school year, trying to make sure our kids are all on point and that kind of stuff to try to make sure we finish the school year strong, and then get our guys out recruiting, get our guys out getting those particular areas that we got to get feel satisfied, and that's pretty much it.
Well, looking at the recruiting aspect, what areas are you going to concentrate upon?
Well, we got a couple spots. We need kickers. We got to figure out how to fix our kicking, punting, graduation deal. We need a tight end or two. We've got to figure out how to add to that group in a way where we can fill our personnel groupings. There are a couple of transfer kids out there. We're trying to figure out how to sort through that situation and make all those guys happen for us, maybe even possibly in the spring. Got a couple guys we'd like to try to bring in this coming spring. And then, we've then got a couple guys here, a couple guys there. I think we'd like to try to bring in a defensive lineman or two this fall. We try to bring an offensive tackle or two, offensive lineman or two, not take a wide receiver. So we want to take like one wide receiver and maybe two tight ends maybe, an offensive lineman or two. Then we want to come back and take in, maybe take a linebacker, take a couple of defensive linemen, a couple of DBs. That's about it. You get 4 or 5 spots that you got available for your offense, and 3 or 4 spots on offense, and 4 or 5 spots on defense, and a kicker or two. That's about all you really got scholarships available for you. So you got to try to either, stretch them out over space where you can take one guy or make 2 guys and put on 1 scholarship, that kind of deal. Or you got to limit your numbers that way.
Well, outside of recruiting, what other areas can you address internally? Do you have to address internally?
Well, we don't have a lot of internal issues. The best part about it is the fact that I like to try to keep the staff in place. I thought they worked extremely well together, and we've got to the point now where I'd like to kind of build on the usefulness of the knowingness of the comfort level of what the staff has developed over the year. They've worked extremely well together, and it's been a good cohesive group here. So, I'd like to think that we could develop into a machine-like style kind of operation. So, that's the big problem. That's the big portion of what we got to get done. Then the rest of the things that we got to do, the kinds of things that you got to do to continue to be able to get your kids through this process as best possible. You got to develop the ability to get them through the summer schools, that kind of stuff. You got to develop the ability to get them through maybe even through the second semester, that kind of stuff. So we'll start from here. We'll spend most of this time mostly doing academic stuff, trying to get them through the year. Then once we get through with that, then we'll give them a little time off during the Christmas holidays. We got a long break. Our break starts on about the 11th of December, goes to about the 10th and 11th of January. So they get a long break in between, and from there, then we'll come back full speed ahead. We'll prepare for our month of weightlifting and running and that kind of stuff with the strength conditioning people. Then right after that, as soon as we get done with recruiting, then we'll start mat drills, our early morning kind of routine where we'll start to work about that kind of stuff in the mornings. And then from there, about the second week of March into spring practice, where we'll finish spring practice about the second week in April. And then from there, you're going into to the next recruiting cycle. So, it's all kind of mapped out in a way where, you got each of those particular periods of the year kind of stacked on top of each other. You kind of know where you go to from each spot.
So, looking at the offense, really from the Central game on, it was a lot of inconsistency. What can y'all do to maybe address that?
Well, I think first of all, we're going to change people. Not necessarily because didn't feel like the people that we had were doing a good job is because of graduation, that kind of stuff. We lose guys now. We lose Richard. We lose Tristan. We lose Caleb and Tyler. Some of those guys. We lose Devin Weir. So we lose enough. We've lost enough guys there that you'll develop some continuity that way. But now this offense was, a work in progress. And as we get a little bit better understanding of what our guys can do or what those guys can do, I think you get a little bit better ability to make your offense more consistent that way. The one thing you can pretty much say is that they were a good bit better than they were the previous year. And you're going to move but so much in one period of time. And then what happens is, as we get our offensive line going a little bit better, we're still developing some of those offensive line, characteristics and styles of play that, that you got to really get good at in order to be, really consistent offensively. As we get that portion of our overall scheme satisfied, then I think you'll see a more consistent style of play. But you could see, and after watching the film, it was really frustrating watching that tape because you could see so much there that we had available to us, and we weren't able to take advantage of some of the skills. We didn't. I would like for us to maybe run the ball a little bit more, from certain positions, that kind of stuff. But it is what it is that way. We're out of that particular deal for now. We're on to trying to figure out how to get the next group of guys to have a little bit better understanding of what it takes to make this offense go. And at that point, then we'll see what we're gonna have to. We really gotta have a quarterback in this next guy who's got to be more of a hard-nosed run kind of mentality kind of guy. We got to have a guy who wants to be in this style of offense more. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that guy now who wants to do what this particular style of offense calls for. We look for the Colin Kaepernick guy, that kind of guy. So, that's kind of what we're trying to the RG3 guy. That's what we're looking for in this style of offense.
So, do you think you have that guy here?
Well, I hope we do. We'll find out here this spring. But now we probably going to use the guys that we got here in the plan. We've got Wilder who's returning. We've got Collett that's returning. We got Copeland that's returning. We got Ben that's returning. There's talk of us maybe trying to move some of those guys around, but at the same time, we're going to find out which one of those guys can be the guy, and then at that point, then we're going to spend most of the spring trying to develop that guy into the kind of style of guy that we want to have in this offense.
When it comes to the play calling, because I think one of the things fans felt frustrating about was like when you tried to run the ball, it was like in particular the play where you had the read run delay, the tail it, where it seemed like Furman would snuff that out all the time.
Well, that was a read play, and we thought that that we might should have been pulling that ball a little bit more than what we did, and that's what we want to try to see if we can get with the next guy. We want to try to see if we can, get more pull read with the next guy. During the game, I kept hearing that the guy was indecisive about his taking the dive, which is what that particular play that's what was happening. Justin was the dive, and as I got back and looked at the film, I think we would have been better if we had pulled the ball a little bit more.
Running backs, how important is it that they get healthy? I mean, going into the spring.
Well, that's always going to be, right now, most of them in pretty good shape. The guys that we got that are, that you consider here, I think Scoot's ready to go. He practiced the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season as a scout team running back. Pendergrass is down, but I think we got enough running backs that we'll be fine that way. We won't take a running back in this class because we got so many guys, returning. But at the same time, we've got to just continue to get them to work and continue to develop those guys. Even though you talk about Justin Taylor, don't forget he's a freshman himself too. That's hard to believe sometimes. As mature and as good a player as he is, but he is a freshman. He's got 3 more years of eligibility to play. So, Scoot's got 2, Justin's got 3. That whole crew of guys. When you start looking at those guys, have enough eligibility to. Dondre Lewis-Freeman's got a couple years left. All those guys. Chuck Brown's got time left. Pendergrass. So all those guys, Quick's got time. So all those guys, we got enough of those guys that that we'll probably end up maybe moving some of those guys around because we got another guy or two here that's sitting out that we'll probably maybe move and make linebackers and that kind of stuff out of.
How important is it that Shaq Harrison comes back healthy?
Well, it'd be good if he could. He was our best inside guy when he got hurt. He just recently had surgery again. The doctors are optimistic in the fact that that he's going to be good enough. He's be far enough along to be able to play this spring. It'll sort out the spring whether or not it's actually taken well enough that he'll be able to play.
It's still a leg injury, so to speak.
It's still the same knee. Yeah, he's had 2 knee surgeries in the last year, and that's not so unusual for our offensive linemen. He had one last spring. He came back and we did it again. I guess maybe about a month ago.
Talking about your defense, you lose a couple of key components in Joe Thomas and Darius Drummond. How do you fill those voids?
Well, we need a safety. We need to bring a safety in. But now we've got a good group of guys. Down there, freshman guys, some of the older guys. When you start looking at, the guys that are in our program, Chestnut's back. Philip Henry's a guy that we got to see if we can get something out of. It'll be interesting to see exactly how we get, those guys to go on. We've got those young kids out there too. We got the Michael Weimers and the Carlos Merritt's out there that are, supposedly thought to be, good players that way. Our guys do a good job of working to develop those guys over time. The Tyler Smith guys was in the same position last year, ended up being a good starter for us. And, those guys that were playing for us, none of them on our team last year. So, were on our team actually playing last year. So we'll continue to develop the guys that we have. We've got, guys like Marquise Jones. We might be able to move Murphy around. Buddy Pough is out there. It's no telling who we'll use, when the whole deal sorts out. But we got about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 11, 12 guys coming back at that position, for 5 spots. So, we've got some people that will come in here and be able to prepare to play. We lose Drummond. We lose Joe Thomas. We lose some pretty good, football players that way. But at the same time, I think we'll be okay that way.
Is this team closer to winning a playoff game, or is it closer to beating Bethune?
Well, I think those two are the same. I think beating Bethune and winning a playoff game are very similar. I think it's Bethune comes here next year, that gives a better chance. They need to break that string of home. Well, Bethune broke it for us last year, but they won at home last year. So that gives us a chance to win at home this 2014 year. But I think it's one is the same as the other. I think you just continue to work at doing all of that, and then you develop onto the point where once you get in the playoffs, you take your shots that way.
Do you think once you want to share the conference title that the expectations changed, or did this team end up meeting those expectations?
Well, I think coming from where we came from last year, I think it met its expectations. The fact that we won, a portion of the conference championship, and got into the playoffs, I think was a big part of what we had as a goal to reach this year. I think you move in increments of numbers that you can actually get a grip on. I don't think you go from being a kind of medium, not quite above 500 team to a team that's going to just go totally undefeated, unless you have somebody in the mix that just plays, just above and beyond what you usually get at this level. You got to get a great player of some sort, and I'm hoping that there'll be somebody within our scheme this year that'll develop into a guy that you can really depend on to be, really special that way. You think about when you had the Tracy Hams of the world. When you had a real good player. When we had the Will Fords. We need somebody to come on and be a really special kind of individual. And, I think that's what gives you, an opportunity to make big increments of improvement right off the bat.
Do you think fans, you talked about this Saturday, just about how much you really have to really make the most out of the lemons that you receive. Just, do you think fans now have an understanding of just what an uphill challenge I have just to keep up with the Furmans and Coastals?
Possibly. I think at one point they thought we just kind of just showed up and those guys would, were just kind of inferior to us in every way, and we ought to just go out and try to just beat those guys. But there's nothing far from the truth. When you start talking about football, football is most times driven by facilities and all other different parts that you can actually put into your program that way. And, those guys are heads and heels above us in all those areas. The only thing that we have that that they have is we have scholarships, but we don't have nearly the surrounding kind of parts that you got to have to make the entire programs come together. And we do what we do with a little bit less, but at the same time, we don't make very many excuses for it. What we do is we go out all the time and try to find our way through. The only thing that I'm gonna tell you that fans really ought to be disappointed in is they ought to be disappointed on the 4,800 showed up for the game Saturday. If there's any one thing that really ought to be disappointed that way, that one, you wonder if you go out and you obligate your university again, for the kinds of numbers that you got to have in order to get a game here that way. I really was disappointed in that, but at the same time, it is what it is that way. I think we've got to figure a way to continue to be the very best we can in spite of some of our shortcomings.
Has President Elsie given any indication that he's willing to try to help when it comes to facilities?
Well, I think our entire administration is doing as much as they can at this point. They're working as hard as they can to help us. And, I got to take my hat off to the fact, they seem to be really trying to do the very best they can. It's just that we just got to continue to do the very best we can with what we got. And, we can't make excuses because of what we don't have. We just got to continue to fight that way. But at the same time, I think our university is doing all they can, and will continue to do, even more, when, as we continue to show signs of the fact that we do have the ability to have some success this way.
That's the only thing, Coach, with you and Bethune making the playoffs, with Tennessee State winning. Does that finally put to rest the notion of trying to go back towards the talk 3 years ago about breaking away from the playoffs and playing that Heritage Bowl again?
I think it does. We've had our ups and downs with getting in and being treated fairly and that kind of stuff. I think they're doing the best job they can of making sure that that there's as much inclusion as we can in the playoff system, that kind of stuff. I'd like to think that we are better off fighting this battle than we are trying to go out and try to, have some kind of, bowl, some kind of black bowl game or some of that nature. I'm gonna tell you, Tennessee State's, doing very well, in the playoffs this year. I'm really happy for Ron Reed and his outfit. The fact that they went in and won this past Saturday, it just shows that it can be done. And we look forward to seeing how they do for the rest of the playoffs. They got to play Eastern Illinois this week. Eastern Illinois is really good. They're one of the top ranked teams. They were the top ranked team for a couple of weeks in the playoffs, or right at the top ranked team in the nation. I think they were second, but. At the same time, I really would like to see Tennessee State go in and win this coming Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was another thing. Of course, with one positive this weekend, you sort of adopted home team wins a state title. Just your thoughts about HKT winning it all.
Congratulations to Dan Holler, that outfit. They did a nice job of winning. I was kind of pulling for them. I got to kind of stay neutral in that deal, but at the same time, especially with as many kids we got right here in Timbersville. But I am happy for the Norway Springfield crowd and the fact that they won state championship.
And of course, this weekend Friday you have Demetrius once again playing for one, and then Reggie Kennedy playing for one.
I hope to be able to see those games this weekend. I don't know if I can get in the number that we got allowed for us to go out and see the games this weekend, but at the same time, I do hope that I do wish both those guys the best.